My name is Robert Bernard. I'm the Executive Director for Nova Scotia Indigenous Tourism Enterprise Network. It's actually called Insidan, which is a Mi'kmaq word, which means we want you to understand. I started with the organization in 2012. I've been working the first part of that as a volunteer for the organization to help grow Indigenous Mi'kmaq specific tourism opportunities here in Mi'kma'ki. I am from Oué-Goromar, which is located in the middle of the island of Unama'ki, which people know as Cape Breton Island and Nova Scotia. And my role in the past number of years is just to help support the growth of Indigenous tourism, Mi'kmaq specific tourism, businesses, artists. We view tourism as very different from a cultural perspective. We are very inclusive and holistic about how we approach tourism. And when you talk about that in a community perspective, it's everyone. It's everyone's part of tourism. Destination Mi'kma'ki. I think it's a combination of a number of things. For me, I think with the work that we've been doing the last 10 years, it's about educating people from around the world that are coming here where they actually are versus where it's been promoted. From an Indigenous Mi'kmaq point of view, I think it's important that people realize that they're actually arriving at the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq people. That's what we hope that they learn when they're here. That is the work that we're doing, and really trying to educate people about the true history of the land, what has happened, all of the stories. You know, sometimes they talk about the difficulty with some of the unfortunate things that have happened in our history. But for me, it's understanding that we have a deep, rich, rooted history as First People of these lands. And so Destination Mi'kma'ki is digging a little deeper when you get here. It's about asking the history of, the area that they call Nova Scotia, the area that they call Atlantic Canada. Destination Mi'kma'ki is all of that. It's about the stories of the elders and the ancestors. It's the stories of the children that are coming. And it's about the conversations that need to happen around the tables about what do you know? What have you learned? What have you not learned? The challenges with colonization, the opportunity for decolonization. And what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you as a family member, you as a person working for an organization, or government department, tourism industry, whatever it is, corporate company? What does that mean for you today? How does that reflect the type of work that you do, the type of influence that you are a part of, in the role that you play? And how does that build on relationships with Indigenous people and honoring that relationship through the treaties that many people talk about, that they make it sound very easy. It's not an easy thing, this relationship that we have, we are all treaty people. It's so easy to say that, but when it comes down to it, there's many interconnecting parts, the parts of the culture, the parts with the land, the responsibility to the land, the elements that we've experienced as Mi'kmaq people, as Indigenous people, losing so much of our culture, our language, our, ancestral practices that are now, pan-indigenous for the most part. So when you say Destination Mi'kma'ki, it's a loaded question, but it's also an opportunity. It's also an opportunity for people to learn, for people to ask questions, what happened? Where are things today? What is government doing? What is, industry doing? What are the institutions doing? So that's what I would ask people, what are you doing today to learn about Destination Mi'kma'ki? When I think about it, part of the proudest moments are also when we give an opportunity for our artists and our performers to be showcased at a larger, level, like major events. And when people get an opportunity to hear our songs and our stories and experience our culture in the way that we want, in the way that we hope, and we get that feedback, that it's an amazing learning experience for them, that's one of the proudest moments. Now that I'm remembering, I can clearly think back to an opportunity when we had and when we hosted the 2018 Rendezvous Canada showcase in Halifax, when we brought together artists, performing artists in music, and we worked on a project for about 6 months to do the opening for that event in front of 2,000 people from around the world. We had performers take our ancestral songs and put a different perspective to them, a modern perspective, a modern sound. And we added a guitar to it, and we added rap to it. And this is a traditional honor song. And we showcased it for the first time in front of this crowd of 2,000 people, and they just loved it. We had people that were in very high places and many different organizations take part and hear it for the first time. It opens doors. It opens doors for others to say, wow, these Indigenous people can actually do something that, we didn't expect. And I think we've been breaking those barriers for a long time. And it's so important to keep breaking those barriers, keep opening those doors. Yeah, my mind's gone blank with there's been so many different proudest moments. I would say another proud moment would be giving our elders an opportunity to have their voices heard, to actually take their recommendations and their guidance and put it on paper, use it as part of our strategy, have them part of those conversations, have them in our meetings ongoing, and properly thank them, and to properly make sure that they're covered for the time and effort that they make in being part of those conversations. And I think we're very unique in terms of mainstream society doesn't really incorporate their elders as much as we do. So we're very fortunate, they're very fortunate, and everybody else that's learning from them is very fortunate in the guidance that they provide. That's another loaded question. There's so many opportunities. I think right now is probably the most exciting time for Indigenous tourism. There's so many great things happening. I mean, the GNU tourism program is a shining example of the potential for so much to happen. I mean, part of the reason why the GNU program started was we wanted more people to learn about the real reason why we need to support Indigenous and Mi'kmaq tourism, but we needed more than Mi'kmaq people to know. So we targeted the students that are learning tourism. And MSVU is a leading institution for students going to learn about tourism. So it only made sense for us to find a way to bring that knowledge to the students that typically haven't ever had the opportunity to learn this. So we were thinking long term. We're thinking, we hope that people taking this course, the Mi'kmaq Cultural Tourism Perspective in Tourism through the GINU program, will someday learn enough about Mi'kmaq and Indigenous people that when they are in decision-making roles, that we wouldn't have to continue to educate them about Mi'kmaq history here and Indigenous history across the country and around the world, that they would already hopefully know enough, that they would know the steps they need to take to make things better, to open doors, to, doing things different with the industry. Maybe they become people that work in government. Who knows? Maybe it's the next premier or minister in that classroom. And we hope that what they learn through this program will help build and support connections for communities, for businesses, for tourism organizations, all of the above. We started on this journey in 2012 when we took a team of Mi'kmaq representatives from Unama'ki, from Cape Breton Island, to the International Tourism Conference in British Columbia, where we learned how far behind we were in the work that we're doing. And we learned about this one word called authenticity that we brought back, and we realized that we need to really think deeply about what this meant and how much work it's going to require to achieve. And when you think about authenticity, you think about, okay, well, what does that mean in the workplace every day? What does that mean for our people and culture? What does that mean for our songs? Everything around all of that conversation. So for the work that we do, it's been very important in so many different levels of development, and you can't achieve something that important over a period of 6 months. So when either government or community or businesses or whatever it is want to achieve something that important in a short time frame, you're never going to be able to achieve that in a time frame that you can measure and say, oh, we're going to do it in the next 3 years, because you just don't know how things happen, or how people learn, or how even culture transitions in that time frame. So authenticity is basically, if you translate it into our language, is like saying, like, what is ours? What is yours in terms of your culture, your belief systems, your practices, your creation of art, your representation of designs, like so many elements that come into the perspective of what authenticity means. Even in cooking, even in how you dress, like even in style, even in how you speak. We need to make sure that what we're offering and what we're showcasing is authentically Mi'kmaq. We don't want people from around the world coming and then showcasing, let's say, the jingle dress, which is a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful, look and feel and everything, but it's not ours. So we need to make sure that we have to promote what is ours. In our language, we would say, Goe net ginoe. What is it that is ours? And that's been a huge challenge for us here as Mi'kmaq, but around the world, just because of the losses that our people have experienced through colonization. The other element that I should talk about too is something called pan-indigeneity. And a lot of people don't really talk about that. Some people are very understanding of pan-indigeneity, and what that essentially means is that as Indigenous people, we've lost so much that we don't really have enough of what's ours, so we begin to take from other Indigenous cultures. So when other Indigenous cultures have songs, dances, prayers, places where they go to practice spiritual beliefs, all of those elements, and they begin to use them as their own, but they're from other Indigenous nations, they begin to create a pan-Indigenous way of life. and then you begin to promote that pan-indigenous
So
way
you
of
mean,
life.
like, say, for instance, Cree people doing Mi'kmaq things, or vice versa?
It could be both ways, depending on the culture, depending on the loss of the culture, depending on how much you're taking and then sharing of what it is that's truly yours or another culture. And if you're not telling others that this belongs to the Cree people, Mohawk, whatever it is, people will tend to believe that that's yours. They authentically believe that that's authentic to you. And that's a problem, because then pan-indigeneity becomes the offering rather than authentic Mi'kmaq experiences. I would ask them to give tourism a chance, to learn about what it is, because that's what we're running into. A lot of people don't really know what tourism is about. And we're running into that with businesses, with community members, with leadership, with youth. We're thinking about presenting in the school systems and really breaking it down in a simple way. And tourism is a huge opportunity to showcase your community, to showcase your culture. But I think people have to understand that there's a process in getting there. There's a lot of opportunities in tourism for employment. I mean, I think there's 8 or 10 different sectors involved in tourism. Hospitality, there's hotels, there's restaurants, there's, many different areas that people can get involved with. And I think just giving tourism a chance, no matter if you're a youth or an adult or an elder, come and learn more about it, ask questions. I think people don't even realize that they're involved in tourism sometimes. And when we tell them that they're involved in tourism, they're all excited. And sometimes people think that tourism is just for a certain sector of society that, and some assume that you have to be so certified to get into tourism. That's not always the case.